the opportunity to play like gods for the next half of football. But we can't be afraid to lose. There's no room for fear in this game.
This is the New Hampshire High School Football Show.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
You can't stand the way this place is. Take yourself to higher places.
I don't want them to gain another yard.
You blitz all night. If they cross the line of scrimmage, I'm going to take every last one of you out.
The New Hampshire High School Football Show is brought to you by the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement.
You got heart, charisma, and a lot of skill.
Take yourself to higher places.
And now, here are your hosts, Pete Terrier and Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com.
Clear eyes, full hearts.
Let's go play some football.
Wrapping up the month of September. Believe it or not, it's already week 4 of the New Hampshire High School football season. Hello, everybody, and good morning. My name is Pete Terrier, along with my co-host Dave Haley from NHSportsPage.com. It is almost October. You notice the leaves drastically turned overnight. It was all green. And then yesterday I was driving down Route 101, heading out towards Deerfield to the Deerfield Fair, and I said, wow, foliage.
Wait. So you went to the fair?
Yes.
We talked about this.
Yes.
We talked yesterday on the phone before you were going. I had just left there with Allison sitting next to me, my daughter. One word for you. One word. Carnies. Carnies scare the hell out of me. Honestly. Let me show you a picture during the break of the guy I took a picture. But what about you? How was your experience at the Deerfield Fair?
It was great until we ran out of ride tickets.
Oh, we've got a bunch of them, man. Because her and I went on one that spun, and like 20 seconds into a 6-minute ride, she decided she wanted no part of it, and I had to explain to her for 5 straight minutes that, Daddy can't stop this thing. We're in it, kid.
And Dave says, her and I, he's talking about his young daughter, Allison, who was in studio with us this morning.
I mentioned her, yeah.
I know, but for people on the radio, listening on the radio, they don't, they can't see. They're not watching the video cast on NHSportsPage.com as John Kesty panning in on the beautiful Allison. What a lovely young lady she is.
She is. She'll keep quiet, hopefully, for the next hour. She's pretty good that way. She's skipping soccer today, so let's hope I'm sure her mother's not listening. So,
is she going to offer us insight into the New Hampshire high school football scene more so than her dad, Dave Haley, can?
I doubt it, but she could talk about Monsters University, though, if we wanted to get into that.
Well, why don't we run down the scores, because not a real heavy night as far as games, a lot of games being played today. And, when you looked at that schedule and you said, Friday night games, where should we go? Where do we want to focus on? Kind of slim pickings, I would say. That turned out to be a good night competitive-wise and some interesting games, but it wasn't exactly like a 5-star slate as far as the football schedule went.
Yeah, we'll get into this after the scoreboard, but I think we got a better sense of how things are breaking out, and I want to talk to you particularly about the new playoff system and kind of how it affects the rest of the season. But we'll jump right in. Do we need to talk about the sponsor, or can I jump right in?
Oh, gee, thank you. Our scoreboard.
Somebody's paying for this.
Brought to you by New Hampshire Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement and the Buyers Beware campaign, reminding all adults it's against the law to provide alcohol to minors. And Dave, no better example. Don't be going to the store and saying, Allison, here's a 6-pack.
Yeah, even when Notre Dame plays Oklahoma today at 3:30, not that I'm looking forward to that. All right, so we'll get into the scores. This one surprised me. Keene 41-0 over Spalding. Doesn't surprise me the Keene wins at home, but 41-0. I mean,
Spalding had been playing really well.
Yeah.
I think we may have overrated them a little bit, saying that wins against teams like National North and Timberlane were real good wins, and wins that make you feel like they may be better than we thought going into the season. But I think reality kind of set in.
They're still a playoff team. Because that division is Spalding, Timberlane, Dover,
and Winnicott, and Exeter.
Oh, this is gonna be.
You forgot about the Exeter Blue Hawks.
Are they in
they're
that
in
division?
They're in that conference too.
Oh, yeah.
So they're not a playoff
they're
team.
that team at the top.
Yeah.
How's it going, Dave?
If they can beat Winnicott, they may be a playoff team.
Speaking of which, great segue. Winnicott 28-22 over Alvern. Another score, a little closer than we would have thought. Bedford, and we're going to talk, I'm sure we'll talk about where we were last Saturday, that Winnicott Exeter game, which was incredible. Yeah, great game. Bedford, we may be able to say that Bedford has the best defense in the state. 30-0 over Salem, and I know Salem isn't isn't, the best offensive team, but every week Bedford is holding teams down, and including Pinkerton, including Londonderry. 30-0 Bedford over Salem.
Third straight shutout.
Yeah,
for the Bulldogs.
They've been tremendous defensively. Manchester Central gets a touchdown from Josiah Wade with 1:39 left to beat Goffstown. The extra point is good, 22-21. Manchester Central beats Goffstown in a big game last night. The Pete Terrier Bowl, Nashua South, the alma mater, the chosen alma mater of one Pete Terrier, 35-27 over Nashua North. This is another game that was pretty close. North's a little better than we're giving them credit for. They're hanging in there most weeks. 35-27 South over North. Going to the lower divisions here. And by the way, I'm reading this off of Roger Brown's website, by the way, New Hampshire Football Report. It's a very, very good site. Roger, a longtime friend of ours. Merrimack Valley 26-7 over Kingswood. Merrimack Valley continues their beating bad teams, and they're losing to the one good team they play. Portsmouth 58-28 over Souhegan. This game was pretty close. This was close. I want to say it was 33-28. And I'm going to say it right now. Portsmouth defense right now is not good enough to beat Trinity or Plymouth. They're just not. So they are clearly, to me, the third best team in that division. But they can score. 58-28 over Souhegan. Johnny Iafola, a buddy of mine, is offensive coordinator. Does a great job over there. Laconia, 26-20 over Hanover. They win that game at home. Hanover, of course, didn't play last week. But Sean Cavallero and the Marauders come up a little short. This one surprised me a little bit. Kennett, 30-11 over Lebanon. I picked Lebanon coming second. That division is not looking good. Kennett with a nice win there. Mike Holderman and those guys. Milford, 35-28 over Hollis Brookline. Milford got up huge in this game early, and Hollis Brookline came back.
No, Hollis Brookline did not score 28. They had 8.
Oh, okay. It says 28.
All right.
So, hey, I credit Roger. I got to know where I'm getting it from.
Fix that score, Raj. He's going to be hosting for you, by the way, in a couple of weeks.
Oh, good.
When you're not here.
All right,
Columbus Day weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go to
He'll be
Pittsburgh,
here
New
in
Hampshire.
studio.
Way up
You'll
north.
be in Pittsburgh. Listen to us on iHeartRadio.
Yeah, I'll be getting together with our friend Buddy Trask on Sunday.
Is there wireless? Is there internet
There's
connection?
nothing up there, man.
There's no cell towers
There's
up there.
nothing going on up there. You know what, though? It's kind of nice to have that one weekend where nothing happens. My entire family goes. We have dinner on Saturday night. There's like 20 people. It's great up there. But I won't be there that weekend from here on out. Kearsarge gets their second straight win, 14-0 over Conval. They won last week on a
The
forfeit.
Cougars won that game?
Yeah, they 14-0 over Conval.
Kearsarge Cougars, Conval Cougars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see.
I used to think they were the Eagles for some reason. And Monadnock gets a close win over Stevens, 27-19. Monadnock remains undefeated. They're not 4-0. Isaiah Prince having a great season for them. One more score. No, that's the wrong score. Roger's killing me right now. And Monadnock over Stevens. They didn't play Stevens. They played Sanborn last night. I know this. 27-19 over Sanborn, and then Stevens with a 42-12 win over Fall Mountain. Maybe I shouldn't trust Roger's site, but please, by all means, go to it.
I'm sorry.
So they beat Sanborn last night. And you know what? I thought that game was going to be a lot more high scoring than it actually ended up being.
Well, Sanborn to me has been a team that has surprised me. I know that I remember doing the Chad football game a couple of years ago, and they had a couple of kids from Sanborn on that team, the East team, and I was like, those kids can play.
Yeah,
and
they have a lot of kids in that school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like more kids than you think. Like I was talking to one of the coaches, and he had gone through the enrollment, and he's like, they got like 700 kids in Sanborn, but they're terrible in basketball, and they haven't been a factor in football either. It's surprising.
Well, Dave, you base everything on how good they are in basketball, right? I mean,
it always goes back to that.
There's some good games today, Dave.
They're great games.
You're just looking around, especially in Division I. You got a night game at Stello Stadium in Nashua, Exeter at Bishop Gurdon, old school rivalry.
Yeah.
I saw in your Thursday Thoughts column on nhsportspage.com talking about how they were, rivals not long ago in Division II, and they played in, multiple state championship games against each other. That's going to be a good one at 7. You got Londonderry and Pinkerton, the Mac Plaque game. Timberlanes taking on Dover. Will Dover get their first win of the year? We'll see if they can handle the Owls. That game is at Dunaway Field in Dover. Merrimack at Manchester West. So Merrimack looking to rebound after getting bombed last week by Concord 55-0.
They will.
And then you got Memorial at Concord this afternoon. That's a 1 o'clock kickoff at Memorial Field in Concord. So interestingly enough, Manchester Memorial playing at Memorial Field. Division II, the big one of the day. It is Plymouth and Trinity, Gill Stadium, 4:30 p.m. That's the kickoff at Gill Stadium. If you don't have anything going on, even if you do, scrap the plans. Go see Plymouth. Go see Plymouth against Trinity. Going to be a great game. We'll have the NHSportsPage.com video camera. John Kesty has had that game circled on his schedule as soon as the NHIAA announced him for the year. So we'll be out there with full coverage, video highlights up on the website tomorrow. Other games in Division II, Wyndham at John Stark. St. Thomas looking to go 4-0, taking on Pembroke. The Spartans at 1:30 this afternoon. And Division III, Dave, I know you got Notre Dame in Oklahoma at 3:30, but why not drive back to the parents' house in Guilford and go check out the Bow Falcons
big one.
at the Guilford Golden Eagles? 2-2-1 teams going at it. That's an interesting game. You got Interlakes Moltenboro at Newfound, Franklin taking on Newport, Mascoma at Farmington Newt. Summersworth at Campbell. I keep picking Summersworth to win every single week in our staff picks, and they're disappointing me most of the time.
Not by much, though, man. They've lost some close games. Yeah.
But look,
that's a tough division.
It's win or lose,
Yeah.
and I've been picking the toppers, and they haven't been topping a whole lot of teams. I think they're 1 and 2
I think they're
right
going to
now.
win today. I picked them to win today.
Well, I picked them to win today, too. Actually, I might have picked Campbell. I'll have to check it
Pelham,
out.
I wrote real quick. Pelham, Campbell, Bow, Summersworth in that subdivision. I mean, that is a
That's
those
tough.
are 4 good teams.
And what the heck is Summersworth doing in that
I don't know.
South subdivision?
You know, they sort of, I mean, you know what's funny is Summersworth and Farmington are literally right next to each other, and Farmington's over with Epping, Bishop, Brady, and Raymond, and Summersworth with Bow, and I don't know how they put these things together.
I think it was more of a balance, like competitive balance.
coin.
You know, and with these, especially with Division III, where you have a lot more teams, you know, you have to kind of try and balance it as best you can, and I think that's what it is. The one final game that we haven't mentioned, Winnisquam at Bishop Brady, should be an interesting game as well. That one's going to kick off at 6 o'clock. Lots of points in that game.
Lots of points in that game.
All right. Well, there's the scoreboard. There is the schedule. Once again, the scoreboard brought to you by New Hampshire Liquor Commission's Division of Enforcement, the Buyers Beware campaign, reminding the adults, do not buy alcohol for minors. We'll take a quick timeout, come back. We'll go around the league and talk about some of the big games. I want to get into that Central Goffstown game. Very exciting game, went down to the wire. I'd like to talk about that Keene Spalding game as well, the North-South rivalry game. We'll just kind of go around the state of New Hampshire high school football from last night, and then a little bit later in the program, 8:35, Steve Burns, head coach, Trinity Pioneers, got the Land of Lenahan coming south to Manchester, Gill Stadium, 4:30 kickoff time. That one is going to be a heck of a football game. And I do also want to get into that Winnicott Exeter game from last week, because it was really, really a good game.
I think we learned a lot about those two teams last week. So, yeah, I look forward to catching up on that one.
All right, we'll be back soon. It is the New Hampshire High School Football Show, News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Welcome back to the best local coverage of New Hampshire high school football on the New Hampshire High School Football Show on News Radio 610 and 96.7.
We do it each and every Saturday morning during the New Hampshire high school football season. 2 fine stations on your radio dial. News Radio 610 WGIR out of Manchester. So we're hitting up to Concord, points a little bit north of that, down into Nashua, over out in the west, Milford, Amherst, those type of towns. And then we got a Seacoast FM signal for you. News Radio 96.7, 96.7 on your FM dial, all over Dave Haley country, hailing from the Seacoast himself. And we got it covered all across southern New Hampshire. And even if you're in Pittsburgh, out there looking for moose and things like that, what Dave's going to be doing in a couple of weeks, if you have the fortunate luck of having internet up there,
If you won the lottery.
you can listen to us on iHeartRadio. Just search either of those 2 stations.
They listen.
Yeah, and another way to get to us, I mean, talk about multi-platform. We have the nhsportspage.com video camera in here. John Kesty videotapes the entire show. We post it up on nhsportspage.com so you can listen and watch the show. See what my drink of the day is. I'm drinking a little coffee here, and we've got all kinds of stuff going on in the studio because we got Dave Haley's young daughter, Allison. How old is she? 7?
She's 6. She's going to be 7 in a month.
She'll be 7 in a month. We'll have the big birthday party right here on the radio. She's in the house. Our new producer, Shannon LeConte, over there. You know, this girl got 1 week of training, and now she's running a flawless show. So, Shannon,
Yes,
good job.
I'm getting there.
And
Not quite flawless. But getting there.
she's gonna bring some. She sings in a band. What's the band's name?
It's Sidarium, Sydarium. You can find us on Facebook.
And you're gonna play some Sidarium for us at some point. You know, coming in from the break.
Okay, I'll work on that.
And some 80s hair metal, please.
80s hair metal.
That
Okay.
that makes Dave Haley very. And what high school did you go to, Shannon?
I went to Methuen High
All
down
right.
in Massachusetts.
So we're talking New Hampshire high school football here, and you're like, what are all these teams?
I spend a lot of time in New Hampshire. I pretend I'm not from Mass sometimes. So
That's a smart thing to do. Well, you're doing a great job, and we welcome you to the program.
thank you. It's nice to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about that Nashua North, Nashua South game, because I think both of us, looked at the score. Neither one of us was at that game last night. But we looked at that score and said, South came in, high-powered offense, really good defense as well. And then what do you know? Nashua North gives them a game, 35-27. I know North scored a late touchdown in that game to make it look a lot better, but you are surprised that North was able to compete because they haven't really been doing much on offense this year so far.
Yeah, they've been in most of these games, you know what I mean? And, they're 0-4 right now. Defensively, they haven't been able to hold teams down, and that's been their problem. They've given up a lot of points this season. But those rivalry games are interesting. They're always a little the team that is the underdog in those matchups usually plays over their head a little bit. I'm not saying that North did that. I wasn't there. But they, those are kind of scary games for the favorite. But they lost 34-0. To Keene, and then they lost 26-0 to Spalding. But then in between, they played Winnicott very tough. At Winnicott, they almost won that game. And then, of course, last night against South, they were right in it. And South and Winnicott are arguably two of the top 5 teams in the state.
I think, as far as Winnicott is concerned, you saw the game against Exeter last week, and it went to overtime, and it was a missed extra point at the end that prevented it from going to a second overtime. And, they could still be playing that game.
Did you watch it on
kick.
John's?
I watched it like 5 times.
I watched it like 5 times to see if it got tipped.
I couldn't tell.
It didn't look like it got tipped.
At the time when I was doing, the play-by-play, watching the video, and how we do that on nhsportspage.com is John just films the entire game, and I just sit there and do play-by-play of all the plays. And I saw that the point after kick by Max Chikowski, and it was funny because I had 2 different Winnicott rosters, and the kid that was kicking it for Winnicott was number 10, and neither one of the rosters I had a number 10.
Yeah.
And they had this kid, Matt Chikowski, who was listed as a kicker, as number 5 or number 8, depending on if it was home or road. I went down in the field before the game and talked to Coach Offon. I said, Coach, I'm a little bit confused about who your kicker is, and he told me, well, we haven't figured out who's going to be the kicker
For the game.
This is like 10 minutes before the game, and I said, well, can you confirm it's going to be either one of these kids, Max Chikowski or Anthony Primavera? And he was like, well, we haven't decided yet. So I was like, okay, here we go.
Wow.
And of course, it comes down to this kid, and he missed the kick. It got blocked, whatever it was. Just a tremendous game. But what I'm saying about Winnicott is they get so geared up for this Exeter rivalry game that I think, the game the week before against Nashua North, the game last night against Alvern, kind of a letdown for them. They're not approaching those games like they approached the Exeter game.
No, they got to be careful. On the season, they've scored 105 points and given up 96. So, what they were able to do against Exeter is spread the ball out, and put guys like Alec Boucher in space, and allow him to use his speed on the outside. They couldn't run the ball.
And his
size. Well, he's as good a wide receiver as there is in the state. He and the Bedford kids are probably the top guys. But he and some kid from Guilford, I'm sure. But they were able to. They went up and down the field the whole game on him. You know what I mean? And it was from the start until the end. And An extra point, that's the reality of high school football. It's not the first nor the last time you see a team lose on a missed extra point. But you can't walk away saying Exeter's better than Winnicott. They're technically better because they beat them, but I mean, it was an extra point. I mean, they scored when they had to score. And, I said in my column this week that they exposed a weakness of Exeter, but how many teams can throw the football that well?
Right.
And James Caparell isn't at Bedford anymore, and Concord is a team that runs the football, very well.
But I think they can throw the
Done
football
a lot of passing.
too.
You think they can?
They don't
Same
have.
with Smith?
Yeah, I think that you did not mention him when you're talking about great wide receivers in the state.
I should have. He is.
They don't throw the ball. I mean, they can throw the ball, but they have such a great running game. Why would you throw the ball?
Exactly. And listen, Winnicott is, they threw the ball a lot more. How Wiesner threw the ball, I don't know how many times.
He's a good quarterback.
He's very good.
I mean, and he can run the football too, but they put him in the shotgun.
Did it surprise you on the long Alex Boucher touchdown that they had Max Medley out in coverage all by himself? The kid's 6'6".
I know.
I mean, seriously?
I noticed that.
He was on an
like,
island.
Who got burned on that particular play? I'm like, that's Medley, who is 6'6".
Well, as soon as Boucher got a step on him, he knew he wasn't going to catch him. I mean, Max Medley, you're not going to run through the kid, but I mean, he's 6'6". He's not catching him in a foot race. And, but yeah, I mean, they definitely have exposed. And listen, I mean, Keene was right in that game, held them to 13 points. So
they can't really throw the football either. Keene.
No, but
and I know Alex Parento. Threw a couple of touchdown passes last night in that game against Spalding. But if you really take a close look at him throwing the football, remember that kid Jared Lorenzen? I think he was the Kentucky quarterback a couple of years ago. Dante Culpepper, same type of body style, but Dante could throw the football.
Right.
But Alex Parento is a house.
Parento does everything for
He
those guys.
he just doesn't look natural throwing the football.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. All right, we'll get to a timeout. We got to talk to Steve Burns from Trinity coming up. The Pioneers against the Plymouth Bobcats. To me, the winner of this game will have home field advantage in that conference championship game. And people say, hey, you're discounting Portsmouth here. I don't mean to necessarily do that, but I just think that Trinity and Plymouth are the cream of the crop in Division 1.
They are right now. No question.
I mean, Division 2.
Portsmouth defense is not good enough right now.
They can't stop people. And I think that the winner of this game, could eventually have home field advantage in that D2 championship game coming up in mid-November. We'll talk to Coach Burns when we come back on the New Hampshire High School Football Show, News Radio 610 and 96.7.
From Manchester West to Winnicott, Central to Somersworth, and Portsmouth to Plymouth, the New Hampshire High School Football Show brings you the best coverage in the state on News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Now, speaking of Plymouth, we will be talking with the head coach of the Trinity Pioneers, Steve Burns, whose team is taking on Plymouth this afternoon, Gill Stadium in Manchester. Game of the year on the D2 schedule. Can't wait for that football game to start. Really a rematch of the last two championship games in Division 4. You had Trinity beat up on them at the end of the 2011 season, and then a classic nail-biter, 7-0 Plymouth won on a late touchdown pass, 40 seconds left in that game. The touchdown that gave Plymouth the championship, the 19th championship in Chuck Lenahan's illustrious career. I think this is his 43rd or 44th year coaching, and his final year coaching. So I'm sure Trinity would like nothing more than to send him out with a gift. Not like the stuff that Mariano Rivera's been getting around the league this year. It's sort of like as a parting gift. I bet you Coach Burns would love to give Lenahan a parting gift of a big L this afternoon, and more importantly, another big L later on in the season if they do end up meeting in the D2 championship game. You think it would be a disappointment if those teams did not meet in the championship game?
Well, I mean, Portsmouth is that third team. I think those are the three. Today's big because of the way. Well, it's big for a lot of reasons, but the way it ended last year with Colin Sullivan's 27-yard touchdown pass to Ryan Farina in the last 40 seconds of that game. I mean, just you feel like, all right, we're 2 plays away from overtime, and then the next thing you know, it's over, literally, and they're holding the trophy in the middle of the field, jumping on top of each other. So that crushed those kids, and both teams they've been talking about this one for a long time. I know the Trinity kids they're ready for this, and it's going to be fantastic.
Well, let's find out if, in fact, the Pioneers are ready. We got Steve Burns on the line. Coach Burns, good morning to you. Are you guys ready for this one today?
Ready for what?
I knew there was no way he was just going to answer that straight.
Is that you?
I don't know. We're not hearing you too well, Coach. So I don't know if you're in the bowels of Trinity High School or something like that.
No. Actually, I just woke up a little while ago. I'm just laying here. I just finished watching some Walter High videos with my daughter.
Why don't you show that to the team, because that, I'm sure, would get them real pumped up for it.
Actually, it's funny. She sends them messages every week and tells them that she better win. And I think last year she told them she was going to beat them up with a golf club if they didn't win. So.
I was up there last year, made my television debut. I'm trying to burn the film of that thing, but when they handled you guys pretty easily up there, and when you guys got down big, you guys really started throwing the football and didn't have a lot of success with it. You know, Carmen was putting it right on people. Carmen Jean Petruzzi was putting it right on people's hands at times, and they were dropping it. Other times, the timing was just off. That has changed this year. Pete and I were there for the opener against Portsmouth, where he put up about 350 yards. Do you feel like you're prepared is not the right word, because I know you got these guys prepared in all phases, but do you feel like they're more comfortable throwing and you're more comfortable if you got behind today that you can come back quick strike offensively by throwing the football?
We get down up there 2 years ago, actually when we ended up beating them in the state championship game. They were up on us, in a tight game, and, we had to throw the ball. We got shoes on an 80-yarder, and then we hit Andrew Lauderdale on a 50-yarder to win it. On a game that was, pretty similar to that championship game last year. And then last year when we get down, we had lost Zach Poole. He had gone down with an injury earlier in the game, and, Zach's a real popular kid on the team, and, when he was hurt, the kids kind of got down a little bit, and, the pass game really was kind of sloppy and just, not really fine-tuned, like you said. It just was not there. Plus, those Plymouth kids tackle really well, and they cover well. One of those, he threw a pick six last year against Plymouth. I think he's thrown maybe 10 interceptions in his career, and he throws one for, that's the only interception touchdown he's given up his entire career. So, so far we've looked, pretty good throwing the ball. I think, our timing's a little better. We've got a bunch of guys, with good hands. If you look at them, Baldwin, Thoreau, everybody knows about the two tight ends. Obviously Chambers and Rhodesy brings something special, but, some of that hasn't really even tapped him much. It's been the Poole kid. Since he's been back, he went for about 100 yards last week, and he's working himself back. And he's really got to be coming up, home stretch. And, Will Shepard, a sophomore, has, just been fantastic for us. He's been starting on both sides of the ball, and he made a great football play last week for a 2-point conversion after we had been bumped back, to the 10-yard line. We said, throw the ball, and next thing I know, he's doing a collegiate dive for the pylon, and he's stretching out and just barely getting it over, and it's good.
Hey, Coach, Steve Burns from Trinity is our guest. I want to ask you about, you were around when you guys first started playing. You weren't the head coach, but you were on the staff of Gary Leonard. And when you guys got in the same division as Plymouth 3-4 years ago, whatever it was, there was always that air about Plymouth where, a team would show up to play Plymouth, especially in the land of Lenahan, and they would have no chance just because it was Plymouth and the whole aura around that program. Was there a little bit of a learning curve to teach your teams, and I'm talking about the teams a few years ago, that, you guys, you're a football team too, and you can compete with these kids?
Not really. If you look at it, out of the gate, we were 3-0 against them. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until last year that, they'd beat us. We knew that we were a pretty good football team. We've, we scrimmage all the Division I teams and everything, and, we're right here in the heart of Manchester where, football is a pretty big thing. I had grown up playing Division I football. I had coached Division I football. So, coming down a little bit, everything was, just regardless of what division it is, you put your pants on one leg at a time, you put your shoulder pads on one arm at a time, and then you cover your head up in a helmet, Go play ball, go play physical, and, it doesn't matter if you're playing, St. Mary's out in, Oregon, who can put up 800 points, or if you're playing, Mount St. Mary's for the blind, down in Massachusetts or something.
They got a good defense, Mount St. Mary's for the blind. Those kids can tackle, just on sound alone. What do you see? What do you see when you look at these guys? And I know there's a lot of familiar faces, but a couple of for listeners that haven't seen Plymouth yet, they've got a kid, John Thomas, who runs the football really well for them. Big, strong kid. They've got a change of speed back and by the name of Justin Robinson, who I think is kind of an emerging kid from there. Jared Cool, I think, is one of their captains, who's terrific. He's kind of like their short yardage guy. Colin Sullivan, who was the starting quarterback last year, he's terrific on both sides of it. And they got one kid I know that you just are a big fan of, and Kyle Riesert, who is just defensively maybe their best player. Just kind of what are your thoughts on Plymouth?
Well, you just went through the star-studded cast. It's like an Oscar ballot, on movie night. Those guys are loaded. They are good. The Robinson kid has really emerged, as a little speedster, a little shifty water bug type. He's got some moves to him. We've seen a lot of him. And the rest of the guys, they've been there for years. They know how to win. They know how to play. They're disciplined. They believe in what's going on. And, they're going to do whatever it takes to win. Today's going to be, one heck of a matchup.
Coach, I got to ask you about your team. You mentioned earlier that it really doesn't matter, the division. You guys are all football players, and you prepare and you play the game the same way. I got a vote, as you know, on the Union Leader WGIR WMER Power Poll, and I got you guys ranked number 4 on my ballot. And I know that I think you're 7 or wherever in the latest poll. Am I, if you guys win today, I will feel pretty vindicated about where I have at number 4. Do you feel like you could compete with the top, 5 teams in the state of New Hampshire? I mean, I'm talking teams like Bedford and Concord and Pinkerton and Nashville South, teams like that. You guys feel like you could hold your own against? Because I certainly feel that you could, as long as you guys stay healthy, because I think you lose some starters and that changes. Of course, that goes for everybody, but I do feel like you guys are a top 5 team in the state.
Yeah, well, you got to let me know at the end of the season what I owe you for making sure that we're in the top 4. I'll take care of that for you. No, I think we've got a very good team. We've got, same thing. We're very similar to Plymouth. We've got kids who have been here for a long time. We've got kids who are just believing what's going on. And some of them just, they eat football. They live football. I think we showed, the past couple of years in the Turkey Bowl that we can play against a Division I team. There hasn't been a blowout. The biggest loss has been by 11 points. Other than that, it was a 1-point game, a 1-score game last year. So, we've hung right there, and all 3 of those Central teams were playoff teams. So, I think that we're, a top-tier team. The problem we would run into is with our, lack of depth. We've only got 42 kids in the roster, and of that, 22 of them are sophomores and freshmen. So, our lack of depth would, hurt us. If we can't go out and line up against Exeter one week, Bedford the next week, Concord the next week, and expect to have anybody, survive. That's tough. That constant pounding in Division I where there are no breaks. Everybody's big, everybody's strong. That's where, teams get run down and your deep teams really start to show down the line. If you look at a team like Pinkerton, they were really hurt in that championship game last year when Matt Madden went down. He made a big difference, on that team, and, he's back, and, they're back to rolling now. So, like you said, injuries play a huge key in football.
Coach, just one last one for you, and it's strictly, what the heck time does this game kick off today? Because I've seen like a million different times. 3:30, Dave tells me last week that you told him. Then I see 4:30. Roger Brown yesterday on his website, nhfootballreport.com, has 4:45. What time does this game start today?
Yeah, this is a 4:30 start. Haley's trying to get back at me. He's still, harboring a grudge, so he's going to tell people 3:30 so that I can get more people yelling at me.
He called some horrible fouls on me in college, and obviously there's a lot of guilt on that side of the phone. You can hear it in his voice.
Please. I sent you my King State Rex Sports Fisher of the Year award. I've got the hardware. You don't.
That is sad but true.
Coach, do you expect there to be a big crowd today?
Actually, I do. I expect it to be a real big crowd because Plymouth travels well. It's a straight shot right up 93 or right down 93, either way. And they travel well, and they're 3-0, and they've got a real good team. So they're going to bring a bunch of people. A lot of people in Manchester have been talking about this. It's a 4:30 start, so it's different. A lot of people are going to be available to see it. And it's homecoming for us. So, the word's been out there and everything, and I'm expecting a real big crowd for this.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to it. We'll see you out there at the Field Gill Stadium. 4:30 kickoff, Plymouth and Trinity. Game of the year in Division II. Coach Steve Burns, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, guys, thanks for having me. Thanks for everything you do for football.
All right, Coach, thank you. Steve Burns from Trinity. It's going to be an awesome game. Can't wait. Are we fortunate enough to have two back-to-back weekends with marquee games that actually live up to the hype?
Yeah. Oh, I can't imagine this game not being tight. I really don't see either team winning by more than 10 points. I think it's going to be a very close game. I was looking at Rogers' picks on his site, and he picked, while we were talking, he picked Trinity to win 14-13. And I know I picked Plymouth to win, but, you could flip a coin. It could go either way, and I think it's going to be tremendous. But I do think it's big that Trinity can throw the football a lot more. Even the threat of it, you know what I mean? That opens up some running lanes when a linebacker has to account for those two, Tristan Thoreau and Ryan Baldwin, two very, very good tight ends who can play at the next level. I think that does make a big difference for Trinity.
Do you think we'll see Plymouth air it out a little bit? Because
No.
they want to run the football. Ironically, they won the championship last year on a pass play.
Yeah.
But do you think that they'll try and spread them out a little bit?
No, I don't. I think Colin Sullivan's very accurate. I think he can throw the football, and he's tough to bring down. The thing with Colin is if there's a defender that gets, Ian Landry or someone like that for Trinity who gets in the backfield, he can get away a lot of the time. He's quick. He's got very good instincts, and sometimes he's at his best. I think he is at his best when things break down and he kind of gets out of the pocket and can kind of throw on the run. I've seen him make some big plays that way. He's not that tall. He's the point guard on the hoop team. So he's not your traditional in the pocket, just sit back there and zip it like Carmen is. If Carmen sits there and has the cup around him where he can just throw the football, he's as good as anybody in the state. Carmen's that good. Colin's more of a, if you get him on the run, he can create something with his feet. He scrambles for a bunch of first downs out of the backfield. He can throw on the run. So two different kind of quarterbacks, but they're both equally effective. But no, I don't think they'll spread them out. They'll run the football. They're going to. Lenahan's been doing it the same way for a long time. I don't think he's going to change it. I don't see them spreading it out.
Chuck Lanahan in town, 4:30 kickoff.
We're going to miss him next year.
Trinity and Plymouth. We'll have it covered for you. A full video highlight package tomorrow on nhsportspage.com. Quick timeout. Come back. We'll wrap up the show. It's the New Hampshire High School Football Show. News Radio 610 and 96.7.
You've found the best place for local high school football talk. It's a New Hampshire High School Football Show on News Radio 610 and 96.7.
Heading towards top of the hour, 9 o'clock. Mark Hebert's Money Sense coming up next. This is the New Hampshire High School Football Show. I am Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley, nhsportspage.com. Want to talk a little bit about Josiah Wade last night because we wondered how he was going to translate at the Division I level, coming from the lowest level of New Hampshire high school football, Division VI last year, the Campbell Cougars, now a Division III team with the realignment to the three-division setup. But Josiah Wade, big game last night, 246 yards on the ground, a couple of touchdowns, including the game winner. Basically took over that game in the final drive that gave Central the win, 22-21 against Goffstown. Goffstown, a team that plays everybody tough. I mean, they really do. That's a young team, very, very young team. I like their coach, Justin Huff. I remember when he was a lineman for Sauhegan back on that first Sauhegan Sabres team in the fall of 1992. I used to broadcast Sauhegan High School football, Milford High School football. I was working for a radio station out there in the Milford Peterborough area, and we did those games. And I remember Justin Huff was a lineman on the team, one of the captains, and then he became the head coach. He was an assistant under Bellevue at Sauhegan, took over that Goffstown program. But it's good for me to see Josiah Wade, because we wondered how he would be able to compete at this level. Well, he's certainly been good. Now, Central, they're obviously going to have a fight for the playoffs because they're in a real tough division with Goffstown and excuse me,
Bedford.
Not with Goffstown. They're in with Bedford, Concord, and the other Manchester Memorial, Manchester West. But Central's kind of like on the outside looking in at a playoff spot because of Concord and Bedford and what they're doing. But I'm glad to see Josiah Wade doing so well. Great quote in Roger Brown's story in the Union Leader from Ryan Ray, one of my favorite coaches. I think he gets a lot of criticism, Ryan Ray does. I think people, criticize him, and they think that he should be doing more and those teams should be doing more because of the great success that Schubert had and Central. People forget that Central was not a very good football program before Jim Schubert. They struggled. Jim Schubert had those dominant teams, but Ryan Ray hasn't really been able to get them to a championship game. They've made the playoffs. But I like the quote that Roger has in the story. Wade is awesome, he says. Good player, great person. That's what you love to have on your football team. So, to me, he really enjoys this kid. And he's lost. Remember, we thought they'd have 3 great running backs coming back this year. They had Velez coming back. He's now off the team. David Weekley didn't even come out for the team this year. This is now Josiah Wade's football team.
That's their problem, is they don't have enough playmakers. Where last year they had Troy Pelletier, Riley Cody. And they're still trying to figure out who their quarterback is already. Halfway into the season, they're rotating.
Greeley got hurt. And, he's obviously no Riley Cody.
Right.
They had Jared Chandler, a quarterback, before him. He's not he's not of that caliber, but they were going with second and third teamers last night.
Yeah, they had to. That's what I'm saying. They don't have a definitive backup where they had Riley Cody and then Jared Chandler became a wide receiver because of all that. But Josiah's done well. I don't think he's a huge difference maker for them, but he's definitely their best offensive player. But you know what I mean? Like he led the state in rushing last year, so there were a lot of expectations, and I think he's done very well. I don't think he's taken Division I by storm, though. You know what I mean? We're gonna have the leaders for the division in rushing, passing, receiving. Finally, this week, I've gotten the email from Goal Line. They're going to have it ready to go. Elliot and I have been just blistering them. So we're going to have the leaders in the division, and that's always fun to look at. We'll be able to finally see who the leading rushers, passers, and receivers in the state are, and so forth and so on. But I want to give a little love to Division III. In that Bo Guilford game, my Golden Eagles. That's a good game today. Bo runs the ball really well. They got 3 kids who they give a lot of carries to: Chris Robbins, Alex Reitz, and Matt Enrenberg. And then they have Derek Polish, who's their quarterback. Guilford, with Jack Athanas, is going to throw the football. So 2 very different styles. Bo's just going to try to control the clock and run the football. But there's there's no consensus best team in Division III right now. That seems to be the one division where you don't have your clear-cut favorite. I think there are in the other divisions. We just talked about Trinity and Plymouth, and obviously Exeter, Winnicott, Bedford, Pinkerton, the teams that come, and Concord. I feel like you're almost like you've adopted Concord this year.
I just think they're the best team.
Yeah.
And this is after seeing Exeter and Winnicott last week. I've seen Bedford. I have yet to see Pinkerton, but Bedford beat Pinkerton in the first game of the season.
Yeah.
I've seen Nashua South. I think they're very, very good. As a matter of fact, next week you got Nashua South hosting Exeter, and then 2 weeks from now you got Concord hosting Bedford. Those are going to be great games. I want to just go back to Division III for a second. Yeah. You talked about who knows in that division.
Yeah.
You got 2 teams in the entire division unbeaten right now, and one of them's Campbell, who's only played 2 games, and they're going to play a game today. It's a night game tonight at home in Litchfield against Somersworth.
Yeah.
Somersworth, a team that, I think everybody thought they would be pretty good, but they've struggled so far on the season. And then you got Pelham, who is off, and Pelham, kind of came out of nowhere. They were a down program, and now they're, one of only 2 unbeaten teams in the entire state. So they're 3-0 right now. So, and they're in the same division, or in the same conference, I should say. So we'll have to see about that. Again, Can't wait for Plymouth Trinity tonight. Very much looking forward to that. If the game ends soon enough, I take a trip down to Stellos and watch some of that BG Exeter game. If
Do you
I
think
can get
BG
there.
can hang with them?
I think BG can hang with them. We're out of time, Dave. Going to be a good game today. Look for the highlights tomorrow.
Yeah.
Trinity and Plymouth on nhsportspage.com. For Dave Haley, John Casti, our producer Shannon LeConte, and Dave's daughter Allison. It's been a great show, everybody. Thanks for listening. The New Hampshire High School Football Show.